Hey there, Cylinder Radio listeners. About 5 years ago, I expanded my classroom to social media and podcasting to try and bring nuance and viewpoint diversity to the national conversation. Now, I am finally excited to announce that I'm going to be releasing my very first course. It's free. It's a download with a tutorial called Debate to Dialogue: How to Have Productive Conversations on Politics and Religion. So the way that I've been trying to have these conversations and bring more nuance, now I'm going to give you a step-by-step on how you can do that as well to heal perhaps personal relationships in your life, engage with people in challenging ways, and things like that. So to download, just go to cylinderradio.com/debate2dialogue and you get it for free. And then you'll also be on my mailing list to get whatever else I'm going to be releasing. And I'm going to be releasing a lot coming up, all kinds of history lessons and civic lessons and things like that. So check it out. cylinderradio.com/debate2dialogue. All right, here's the show. Hello and welcome to the next episode of Cylinder Radio. I'm your host, Will Roosh, high school teacher in Los Angeles, trying to bring nuanced conversation and viewpoint diversity to the interwebs where we seem to be very siloed and unwilling to engage with each other. My guest today is McGlover. She is an award-winning oratorical speaker, comedic mentor, healthy culture enthusiast, and writer who has perfected the blend of comedy and truth-telling. And I found her on Instagram being very bold and kind of unapologetic in the way that she presents ideas. And I think that that's something that I want to try and get to the secret sauce of, trying to understand how she arrived at being such a bold personality and an individual, strong thinker and things like that. Megan, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming on the program, and I'm looking forward to kind of breaking some stuff down about why you are the way that you are.
Thank you so much, Will, for having me. And that's a unique question. So let's see if we can let's see if we can get to the answer.
Well, let's start off with, what's your story? Like, where are you from? Kind of where were you raised? What kind of background do you have and things like that?
Okay, so born and raised in Southern California, Anaheim Hills to be exact. Went to private school all my life. Raised very strict Seventh-day Adventist. I am the third generation orator, my grandmother, and then my mother, and then I. So just kind of raised, very strict, this is how you do things, and, very regimented.
Disciplined.
Very disciplined. Being raised Seventh-day Adventist comes with its own stuff, good stuff, and some stuff that's kind of quirky to outside people. Like, for example, we have Friday night sundown to Saturday night sundown. You don't watch TV, you don't go outside and play, you don't, it's the Sabbath. So these kind of different things just were kind of kept me in a little bit of a cocoon, if you will, because they were just so odd and so different to anybody outside of that norm. So then I moved out eventually and ended up living in Los Angeles for a long time, and just worked and stuff, and then I kind of got onto the YouTube or the social media, if you will, when I moved to Atlanta. And I moved to Atlanta from Southern California, and the weather was really, really bad this particular year. It had snowed, and they didn't have the right equipment. They didn't have any snow plows. I mean, it was a mess. And so my family in California, they were calling me continuously, asking me, how's the weather, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, you know what? I'm tired of answering all these text messages and phone calls. I'll just do videos on YouTube, and then you guys can all watch it, and then that's it. And that's literally how it started. And so I was doing weather reports, but then I would also talk about what was going on in the news. And then it just went viral from there, and kind of here I am.
Are you still practicing Seventh-day Adventist?
No. I do not practice. Since then, I have, oh my God, I've been Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist. I've studied so many different religions because my background is psychology. Okay. So I have 3 degrees in psychology, finishing up my dissertation for my doctorate now. And I love the study of the mind. I love the understanding of culture and of society. I
Yeah.
really just love that. So to be stuck in one thing, I shouldn't say stuck because I don't mean it to be derogatory, but for me to be boxed into one thing, it would not work for my brain. It doesn't work because that's not how I view the world.
Yeah. It's interesting though, when you talk about being raised that way, I have a lot of friends who are Orthodox Jewish, and it's actually very similar, like the Shabbat and everything. And there are real benefits. I mean, especially if you look at today, like getting off of your phone for 25 hours or whatever it is, like that matters, you know, just like resting and all that kind of stuff. It really matters because we look at society's so sick in so many ways that I wonder, you know, how many of those ancient traditions from religions, religious texts and stuff would help us, because we're in a really dark time. We're recording this the day after that, maybe it's 2 days after that terrible shooting in Nashville.
Yeah.
It's really horrifying. And you know, and then the sides kind of get polarized of like, it's a gun issue or it's an identity issue, it's a mental health issue, it's kind of all of these things. When you speak, you have a lot of courage. You say what's on your mind, and maybe to you that's like kind of just like, well, that's just who I am and everything, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people are scared to actually voice their opinions because of the flack they're going to be thrown at them and everything like that. Like, I think we're lacking courage as a society. So what got you to be someone who is going to say, I'm putting my ideas out there, and if you don't like them, you know, kind of go kick rocks, or I will engage with you, or whatever it might be. But your willingness to be so bold in the way that you voice your opinions, where do you think that came from? You think that's just innate, or do you think that's a process that you developed?
A little bit of both. Definitely my grandmother and my mother did not mince words.
Strong women.
Yeah, very strong women,
Mm-hmm.
very direct, and very clear on who they were. And so I got some of that from them. But I personally veered off and ventured into things that were a absolute no-no. For example, I'm married to a woman. Well, that is not acceptable at all. And so doing things like that, I mean, you know, getting tattoos and getting my ears pierced and all these things were not acceptable. And so I had to go up against these very strong women and men in my family and say, well, I may be the only one that's going to do this, but I'm going to do it. And so I did have to kind of create, if you will, a even stronger will and ability inside of me to go up against some very strong people that raised me, with whom I'm supposed to be respecting. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, like iron sharpens iron type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that was very difficult. You could imagine that was a very, very difficult process. And even though you can be raised to be boisterous, if you're saying something that goes against, then you need to be quiet. So for me, I was raised to be boisterous as long as I'm saying what we all agree upon. When we don't, when I start going into something else, it's like, oh, Megan, you need to be quiet. Like, well, ooh, no, don't say that. So for me, I had to understand who I am to me and to the universal whole. Who I am to God, who I am to the universe, whatever word you want to use, or God source, or Jesus, or whatever. For me, I had to understand and really grab hold of that, because once I understood that, then the need for other people's approval began to dissipate. It wasn't really that important anymore, because I don't necessarily need you to agree, understand, approve, rationalize. I don't need any of those things, because I'm very clear on who I am and what part I play in this particular realm or this particular universal time. So I'm very clear on that. And so then it doesn't ruffle my feathers when someone doesn't agree. It actually, for me, gives me an opportunity to further discuss. But it's because I'm very clear. Now, if you're not clear, that's when you start getting all upset and you start yelling and screaming, and then it's, oh my God, you're pressuring me. It's all this stuff. But when you are clear with who you are, then you can really love who you are. And so, see, I have come to love who I am. I love the fact that I have a loud voice and a strong tone and all of these things that people say annoy them. You know, like, oh my God, why does she talk so loud? Well, I like that I talk loud. I love it. I think it's great because I can be heard. You know what I'm saying? I don't need a microphone. I don't need, oh no problem. Just, you know what I mean? Just tell me what we're talking about and I got it. Yeah. So I even laugh when, you know, sometimes I'm asked to be on different shows and stuff like that. And so they have to check the mic and stuff. And I laugh because I'm like, oh, you might want to turn me down, you know, like, because I am going to project. And so it's just natural for me. And those are things that I have come to love. But at first, when you're in high school and you're in junior high and, you know, you're so different from what is considered to be the societal norm, you try to shy away from those things. You try to not be so much of that because you want to fit in. But as you begin to grow and mature and emotionally and spiritually evolve, then you start to say, oh, I'm actually glad that I'm that way because look at how many people want what I have.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this, Megan, is it was actually the resistance that helped you to develop that. It was like, is this really who I am? Like, if I'm willing to fight for it, then it must be to some degree. This wasn't, you know, who you developed to be as an adult woman now is not something that was pushed on you. It's quite the opposite. So you really had to, you know, take that stance where I think more of what we're seeing now is this idea of like pushing young people into being a certain way. And if they're pushing back on that, I think there's something to look at. Like one of the things I tell my students, like some like young girls want to go like out of state for college and their mom and dad say, no, you can't go out of state. And I say, like, try this line on them. You raised me to be a strong, independent woman. And now I am showing that. Like that's the thing. It's like, if you were raised by strong women and then they're like, why are you pushing back so much? It's like, hey, this is your doing. Like you wanted me to be a strong, independent woman. You wanted me to be a bold thinker and speaker. And now you're kind of dealing with it. You know, it's like you got to reap what you sow to some degree. So would you say that's accurate though, with that it was the resistance that helped you to really figure that out?
Well, I don't like the word fight. I don't like the word I had to fight to be who I am. I really think that there's less need for fighting and more need for just being, just standing, just this whole idea that you have to fight to be something is really it's preposterous. It's unnecessary. Weeds don't have to fight to grow through the concrete. They just grow. There's no tug of war between a weed and the ground. It just grows, even through something as strong as concrete. You know,
the resistance, you don't like thinking of that resistance as, you think like thinking of it as the process of growth, not just not fighting, not just like the way to frame it.
Right, because see, when you bring about fighting, then it makes it derogatory, makes it negative. Mm-hmm. And there is no negativity. Well, there shouldn't be any negativity on you being who you are at this time as you are growing and developing into who you are going to become. That should be a beautiful process. Now, in that process, you're going to get zits. You're going to get, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like all kind of stuff. You're going to go through your ugly stage. You're going to get your heart broken. You're going to, you know, not get every job you want. You might not get in the colleges you want. These are different things that are going to happen. And those are resistance, right? Those are like things like, you know what I'm saying? You're not going to always be pretty because at some point you're going to have a huge zit on your nose. These are the things that make you stronger to a degree, but it's not something that you should be fighting. You see,
Yeah,
it,
I
it
like
is
that.
it is a process that you are becoming and being stronger as you are growing, right? So the word fight, I don't
I
necessarily
like
I
that.
don't really go with that, because when you're speaking, especially with young people, fighting for them is so over the top. It's just like over the top. And what we should be trying to express to young people is that you don't have to fight me, because I'm simply trying to guide you. I'm not telling you what to do as much as I am guiding you, because I've already raised you, right? By the time they're teenagers or whatever, we should be able to just kind of steer them, just like, go over here, right? And then they can continue to walk at this point. So, like the example that you gave as it pertains to the kids who want to go off to college in another state. Well, of course, it is very complicated for children to understand this at that age. But the reason why the parents don't want them to go off somewhere is out of fear.
Yeah.
It's not control, it's fear, right? Just the other day, like you said, in Nashville, somebody went into the school and shot up 6 people. Then, a couple of days before that, somebody killed somebody on the military base. Oh, and it's all this crazy stuff going on. So, of course, a parent is going to say, well, listen, if something were to happen, I'd like to be close enough to you that I can drive and pick you up.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
want you to have to
understandable.
get on the plane. I don't want to have to, you have to get, all this other kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. But of course,
Yeah.
parents are not saying that because they don't want to instill fear in their children, and they don't want their children to say, oh, mom, give me a break. Nothing's going to happen. Right. So we're dealing with the fear of the parents and the burning desire to be free children, right? They want to be free, right?
Yeah.
So not only do you say, well, look, mom, you raised me to be strong, but mom, at some point, you have to allow me to be in a place that might not be unsafe, because that's adulting. That's part of adulting. Part of adulting is I will be somewhere, whether it's my job, whether it's school, where I'm going to be somewhere where somebody can come in and do stupid stuff. Same with you. You could be in a grocery store, mom, and blah, 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 right? So these are the kind of conversations that you want your young adults to have with the parents. Like, mom, I know you're afraid, but at some point, part of living is the part where the life is over. We don't want that to come up now, but at some point you got to let me get out this nest.
Yeah, it's a scary process for parents. I get it. You call out a lot of BS. You call it out, and I think in a time, again, when I opened in the opening about courage, a lot of people are scared to call out things that are obviously nonsense or obviously bad or whatever it might be, out of fear of being labeled some name, fear of being labeled a racist, sexist, homophobic, blah, 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 blah. And just because you might have some of those markers does not make you immune to that, I'm sure, for those kinds of criticisms and things like that. You also push back from a more conservative lens often. Would you categorize yourself as politically conservative?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very conservative.
Okay. So what happens a
But
lot?
let me
Please.
explain. I'm conserving my rights. So that's why I'm very conservative. I'm not so much a Republican, because I don't like the way they've been doing things, but I am conservative because I want to conserve my right. So
Your constitutional rights as an American.
correct.
Yeah, I'm with you. So when you do push back and offer a more conservative leaning slant on take on things, I would assume, and maybe I'm wrong here, but that you get labeled things like you're because of your identity markers of being a homosexual Black woman. I'm just guessing, that kind of stuff. Like that you get labeled as like some sort of puppet for the alt-right, that you are being used by this kind of stuff. So that's to silence you. That's to say, no, don't listen to what she has to say, because she is just being manipulated and she doesn't know it yet. You poor thing. You don't even realize that you're being used, that kind of stuff. So How do you respond to that? Because I think it's an important uh take, because if people are scared to speak out because they'll be labeled names, and I'm like the opposite of you on like the intersectionality matrix, but I get labeled all those things, and for whatever reason, good or bad, it doesn't bother me because I know who I am. And I know, my situation and everything like that. But I think a lot of people are scared to do that, not just who look like me, but even people who look and live like you are very scared to do that. So what kind of advice or mindset can you provide to people to be able to boldly stand on your ground and your truth of this is what the way I see it, and ignore those kinds of, or what do you do with those kinds of aspersions that are cast your way?
So absolutely, I get it, well, let's put it this way. Um, they used to try to call me a bunch of names, but I shut
like
that
that.
down right away. I
Yeah.
shut it down. I don't allow a lot of that hoopla and foolishness on my page.
Do you not engage?
I do not engage.
Do not engage.
So, speaking energetically, what you don't want to persist, you ignore. That's how that works.
Yeah.
We have put way too much attention on stuff that we don't like. And the law of attraction says you're going to attract, like attracts like. So if you keep putting attention on it, putting attention on it, you're going to keep getting it, right? So the first thing I do is when something is absolutely ridiculous, I ignore it. Either I ignore it or I'll shame you for it. So I'll put it up on my page and shame you and say, look how stupid, or something like that. And then now you've got everybody shaming you. But I don't engage in a back and forth, nonsensical name calling, whatever. I don't do that. First of all, this is my page, right? So if I don't like you, you get blocked immediately. Okay. That's like somebody coming into my home that I don't want in my home. Like this is foolishness. You can't come in, right? So that's the first thing, right? I think that we have gotten to this idea that we have to prove something. You don't have to prove who you are or what you think or what you feel to a bunch of strangers. This is so silly, but this is what social media has tried to make you think. Like you have to, if you don't get a bunch of people agreeing with you, then you're wrong. That's never been how it is. That's never been how it is. And that doesn't even make any sense, right? So the first thing is I shut down foolishness at the beginning. Shut it right down. Either I block you or I shame you and block you, right? Okay. Then what I would advise to people is you don't have to argue. You're choosing to argue. You can very easily make a statement and be done. But you read the comments and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now you're getting into what somebody else can and cannot choose. If they choose to disagree with you, that too is their right. So you have to be very careful when you just say, oh, well, no, this is stupid. No, wait a minute. You put it out there, right? And then now you want to say they can't say this, they can't do that. No, that's not how it goes. So if you don't want someone to have a comment on your comments or a comment about your opinion, then don't give your opinion. Because people are going to have something to say, whether it's silly, whether it's very highly intelligent, whether they've done their research, they haven't, whatever. They're going to make a comment about your opinion. Okay. The next thing I would say is, sometimes you just have to laugh. People make comments or used to make comments all the time about, oh, I'm homophobic. But of course they didn't know I was married to a woman. So I would just laugh. Like, I'm homophobic? Really? like tell me that every day.
Well, you could be racist too. Megan, don't you? This 2023, you can be racist too.
Oh, they call me that. Oh, they used to call me that. They used to say, oh, I'm doing this for white people and all this other kind of nonsense. It's just a bunch of foolishness. But again, they have that right when I open myself up to being on social media, right? So, but it does not stop me, because sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. I know that's so old, it is like a childhood saying, but it's very, very important. What you say about me means absolutely nothing to me. Now, it may mean a lot to you. It may mean everything to you. Oh my God, that Megan. It may mean a lot to you, but it doesn't mean anything to me, because I spend too much time in the mirror telling myself how proud I am of myself, how much I love myself. I make sure that I accomplish something every single day so that I can be able to say, oh my goodness, Megan, you're making a difference. That is my advice to people. Everybody can't do what I do. Everybody's not supposed to do what I do. Everybody's not supposed to get on the internet and have all this boldness and all this fire. But what you should be doing, everybody, is making yourself proud of you as much as possible. Whatever that is, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's drinking water, whether it's something extreme like getting a degree, whether it's whatever it is, having some time with your children, doing something where you can be proud of you, that is bold. And that is what we need more of. We don't need more controversy. We have enough of that. We need people to love themselves for themselves, by themselves, and then nurture that loving into the world, and especially one family at a time. And if we do that, we're going to be back on top.
Yeah. No, I love that. You and I just have such different personalities. I'm like I don't know if you've ever taken the Enneagram, but I took like an Enneagram, and I was like a 4, I think I was. It was like, I don't like being misunderstood. So it's really not, when people say things about me that aren't true, it's not like, oh wait, am I those things? It's really not. It's like, it's also why I don't block many people, is just because I don't like being misunderstood. So I'll waste a lot of time trying to be like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Here's what like you're misconstruing it. You're intentionally, misrepresenting my, and it does become a waste of time. Like, I get it, but I'm always, a teacher in me too is like, I'm going to try and teach them about, viewpoint diversity and all of that kind of stuff. So I get stuck in that. So I think that, just finding that balance would probably be good.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with you doing that, as long as it doesn't get to the point where it's draining you and it's taking away from your joy, and it's taking away from your time with your wife and time with your children. Now we have a problem. But if you can just get on there and debate and go back and forth, and it's fun to you, or it's like, no, you're going to get this understanding. That's not what I said. You're not going to be on my page saying that I said da 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 da, and it's just like whatever. Then cool. But for people where they really get upset, I've done, I can't even count the amount of counseling hours for people who are so upset by people who they will never meet in their lives.
Right.
Saying something about them on Facebook. I'm like, you don't even know these people. But because their identity is attached to it, then they can't sleep, they can't function, right? Because they're like, no. So it's okay to have a different personality. You don't have to just wash your hands of it, but you do have to have your priorities in check so that you can say, this is starting to get starting to take me away from my center, starting to take me away from who I am, So as long as they don't, will I am, as long as they don't take you away from who you are, then it's fine. Then it's just mental exercise at that point.
I got to catch myself sometimes. Like if I catch it now, like if I start getting worked up, I'm like, all right, I can just get away from it. You mentioned identity, Megan, like, something I've learned, I've done like 140 podcasts now with very diverse people, and all the ways people can be diverse, a lot of like the way they approach life, mentally, viewpoint diversity. Here's kind of my take. I'm curious, you have a background in this, you're formally educated on this, and you have lived a life. what I've found is I've had like 9 different transgender people on the podcast, and the ones who identify as a trans activist or as a transgender, blah, 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 they react very differently than I've had transgender people who identify as like a cat lover, computer programmer, you know, a skier, you know, an athlete. It's very different. Like, if you want to, how you identify is those are the things that you're going to see as yourself. And when those things are attacked or perceived as attacked, then you will see like yourself being attacked, and you kind of go after that. Like, if you're, are your like, you know, immutable characteristics, your identity markers, would that be like how you identify? Would it be like, I identify as a racialized Black, you know, lesbian? Or would it be like you identify as, like I said in the intro, a speaker, a coach, a therapist, like that kind of stuff? What I've found is how people identify. I tell young people and people on my channels all the time, like, be careful how you identify, because those are the things that you're going to really kind of protect and get, you know, and get focused on. So what are your thoughts on, like, how do you identify? It might be even a weird question for you, but like, you know, how do you identify, and what are your thoughts on that, on like how because that's such a big thing nowadays, is like, you are who you say you are, all that kind of stuff. And I have concerns about that. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that identity thing. Cause I've run that by some people, and people are like, oh, that's really interesting. Yeah. Like, I have gay friends who are like, being gay is like the top. And I have gay friends who it's like, it's not even like a thing. It's just like, yeah, they just like dudes or whatever. Like, it's like nothing. And the way that they approach issues in the kind of zeitgeist in politics and stuff about those really is very different. I can watch that.
Absolutely. It is very weird to ask me, how do I identify?
Yeah.
It's like, what? What kind of weird question is that? I identify as my intro, right? I am Megan McGlover. That's my name, right? And I am a motivational speaker. I am, you know, I study psychology. I'm a student of life. That's me. This is why so many people don't even know that I'm married to a woman, unless they either see us or they happen to see a podcast like this or whatever, because that's not what I project, because that's not my identity. That's who I love. That's it. It's not, it's whether my wife was a man or not, it wouldn't matter to me, because that's just who I happen to have fallen in love with. In my mind, there is the breath of the person, just like the breath of me is inside of me. I am in love with that breath, who happens to have that shell. That's how I look at it. It doesn't, so I don't get into the whole gay homosexual conversations, because for me, that's, she happens to be a she, and that's okay for me.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. That's who I fell in love with. We're moving on from that. So for me to approach life by these markers would be like putting a colored lens on a camera. And everything you see is going to be from that color, that pinkish hue, or that yellow tone, or that blue filter. Whatever you put on that lens, everything you see will be skewed from that. If you say that you are a marginalized, unfortunate, Black woman who has been disrespected for centuries and centuries, mother, then you're going to literally find ways to confirm that. You're gonna find them, because when you're looking through this lens that whatever this filter is you put on your camera, you have already put all these words: oppression, racism, disrespect. So when I see you, one of those words might be on your forehead.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you at all. It's the lens that I put on my camera. So if I, depending on how I've adjusted it, you might be an oppressor, you might be racist, you might be, it's a whole bunch of things, little words that I put on my filter. And so you have to be careful with what you identify, because what you identify will bring back to you. A good example would be this. There are many trans people who do not identify as trans. They identify as what they look like. Okay. Now, there is, I can't remember her name right now, but there's a very popular transgender. He was born a man, but now he lives as a woman.
Dylan Mulvaney?
No. She's Black. King Amaya Scott is the name. When you look at this person, she is the most beautiful thing. I mean, I'm talking about drop dead gorgeous, period. There's nothing manly about, except when she starts talking, she talks like this. But other than that, gorgeous. She does not say she's trans. She said she's a woman. That's it. You don't have to worry about arguing with her about any trans topics, because she doesn't say she's trans. She's a woman. Now, if you do, like she doesn't deny it. She doesn't deny either. She says, yes, I am a trans man, whatever. But she does not go into a woman's restroom with a beard and a mustache saying, I am a trans woman. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Yep. So you have people there are women who look like men. They don't say they're trans men. They just say they're men. That's it. They go to the men's bathroom. They go into the stall. They do their business. They come out. Whatever. What is happening is people are identifying, right, with something so they can argue about it. This is nothing but a rebellious movement, in my personal opinion. It's just nothing but rebel. Because if you are an adult and you look a certain way, you just roll with that and keep it moving. It's not a big deal. But when you are 350 pounds, you have a mustache, a beard, an Adam's apple, you wear a size 13 shoe, and you're running around here with fake breasts or whatever, talking about I'm a woman. Come on, honey. Now, you know that this is going to cause a problem. And so you just want this problem because you want some attention. You're just being rebellious. You just want somebody or something to pay attention to you and finally notice you. That's what it seems like to me. And anyone that I have spoken to about it, they're kind of like, well, yeah, this happened in my life. And there's always some kind of tragic situation, whether it was in their childhood trauma or whether it was recent. They recently got a divorce or something, their children were taken from them or something like that. It's always something that has happened. And so now they need an outlet. They need a place to express. And this is what they've chosen.
Yeah, that's a great point. The lenses thing is something that I use a lot because there's and that's what's being taught in a lot of schools and things along those lines. Michelle Obama talked about this in an interview, that she was at like a bakery or something with her daughters and she had her hat on and sunglasses. She's like, and a white man just butted in front of me because I'm a black woman. And that's the way black women are treated. And I was like, maybe he just butts in front of everybody. Maybe he's just an a-hole. Like, we don't know, but you're spot on. I say that all the time, Megan. Thank you for I guess some confirmation bias here is like, if you are looking through that lens of I am disrespected because of my skin color and my gender, then you will find, it's like if you're looking for a contact lens, you're going to find it on the floor. If you're not even looking for the contact lens, you're not going to find it. And there are important places to look for kind of like surreptitious racism or discrimination for sure. But if you look through the whole world like that, you're going to see it in a lot of really ugly ways that may or may not be true.
Absolutely. And it's going to make your life very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And you're gonna miss great opportunities, great friendships, great experiences, because you have already pre-labeled something before it even gets a chance to express itself. It's just not smart. I mean, it is the craziest thing. It is just absolutely crazy to do that. And like you said, the man in the store could have just been an a-hole, or maybe he didn't know you were standing in line. Or maybe he asked you a couple of times if you were whatever going forward, and you didn't hear him. Or, I mean, there are a million different reasons as to why he may have stepped in front of you, except that you're a Black woman and you're disrespected. Are you kidding me? Like, that cannot be the answer for everything.
Yeah, but and as you know, that gets used a lot. It gets used a lot in like teacher Instagram and stuff like that. Is anytime that someone has these identity markers and they do this thing, it's because of those identity markers. And I just get a lot of flack. So I'm like, maybe, but like, can we challenge like good social science? You're a social scientist. Like, good social science is like, correlation does not equal causation. So like, let's try and dig in a little bit more, but that's very disruptive to the way that they identify as like, this is the truth. This is the ideology that I've stuck to. Right. I have one more question for you. And this is because it's Cylinder Radio and it's all about viewpoint diversity. And you are a confident, bold speaker. I am very curious for myself. What have you changed your mind about lately, Megan? Like, is there something that you can share that like you thought this and then you changed your mind based on new information and new data and stuff like that? Because I think when people hear you speak, and one of the reasons I wanted you to come on here is I was like, wow, she like confidence works. It works in sales. It works in position of authority and everything like that. But then what do you do if you go, oh, wait, I was a little off on that one? Like, how do you approach that? And do you have an example for us of something where you're like, wow, you know what? I changed my perspective, even if it's just a little bit on like an issue? Or are you a huge Kamala Harris fan now or something like that I missed?
Joke's on you, buddy. I have changed. I'm going to give you two examples because the first one I'm not going to divulge into.
Okay.
But I have changed my mind about the Republican Party. Not so much that I'm going to the left. I can't go to the left because I don't agree with what they're saying. But I have changed my mind about the Republican Party because the way in which things have been handled lately is extremely self-destructive and unnecessary.
Are you talking about the division?
Yes.
The MAGA versus DeSantis, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That division is extremely irritating to me. And I feel that the way that even before the division, the way that the primaries were handled or lack thereof, we had a really great opportunity to really do some incredible things as far as get out and do rallies and make our presence known. And it wasn't done. And so that has really rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't like that. And so I've changed my mind about the Republican Party because I thought that we were willing to do whatever we could for the people.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not in the Republican Party. No one has asked. Well, people ask me to run all the time, but I'm not in it. Like, I'm not campaigning or whatever. So when I say we, I mean them. because I'm not in it, right? No one's asked me to come to any rallies. So, which is probably unfortunate for them, but whatever. So
that makes sense to me. You're not easy to control. I actually liked Tulsi Gabbard, and like she was ousted from the left just because she was not easy to control. I think you would be a pain in the butt for any mainstream political party because they're going to say, do this, play the game, you know, cuddle up to this donor that you might disagree with. And I don't think you'd be, I don't think I mean,
I can do business. I can do business
yeah.
As long as it's not so destructive to my morals. Mm-hmm. I do have a very business side of me. I do. There's no problem. Like, you know, this is what we're doing. Okay, I get it. But if you push me to where I have to now say morally this is not right, and it wasn't even necessary, then I don't like that. I don't like that because I don't like stupidity, and I don't like things to hurt people unnecessarily. I don't like that. That now you push me into a place I don't like. Now, the second thing is I'm writing another book. My first book was Megan's Thoughts. My second book was Stop Lying, and now I'm writing another book. And I haven't changed my mind about this as much as I already knew this, but I'm just really, I'm just so touched by the information that I'm being given as I'm writing this book, like the information I'm being given by God, by the universe, by the ancestors, whatever. It is just really touching me. And the book, it's so funny. The book is actually about the heterosexual relationship between men and women. It's so funny. And so it's actually a book of instruction, if you will, on helping women to listen to their mate, to listen to their man, and how exactly to do that, and how important it is to not speak so much, but to hear and to really know the difference between hearing and listening, so that you can comprehend exactly where he's coming from and why he's doing what he's doing, or what he means by what he's saying, and all this stuff. And so it has not, I mean, I knew that already, but I guess when you're really, you're like studying and you're finding out all this information and you're actually writing it, for me, it is just so, it's a feminine power, to listen and really make sure that the person with whom you are relating, that they know you heard them. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. So that's kind of like my latest thing.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here, Megan. Where can people follow up on your work, find your books? Your Instagram is always, it's so cool on my feed, because I have a very diverse feed. I've tried to disrupt echo chambers, and it's always like, I wonder what she thinks about this. So it's a great follow for any of my listeners that haven't followed you. But where can people like keep up with your work and even reach out to you for coaching? I think that someone who lacks a lot of confidence to kind of stand boldly behind what they believe, I say that we're in a real desperate spot in this society for courage and leadership, and having a coach to kind of guide them through it, and to essentially say, like, go, and here's how, and I'll lay it out for you, but you need to go and get that encouragement. I think that you would be an excellent source for someone like that. So where can people keep up with your work and follow you and contact you and things along those lines?
Thank you so much. So I'm Megan McGlover on everything, pretty much, right? So Megan McGlover on Instagram, Megan McGlover on Twitter. My website is meganmcglover.com. My email is megan@meganmcglover.com. I mean, yeah. I tried to make it as easy as possible. I mean, you can't get any easier than that, right? So Megan McGlover on Instagram, Megan McGlover on Facebook, Megan McGlover on Twitter, meganmcglover.com is my website. My latest book, Stop Lying, that's what it's entitled, stoplyingbook.com, stoplyingbook.com, and that's where you can get my book.
Wonderful. Megan, thank you so much for giving your time to be here. I love your perspective on things. I just think it's valuable to put out there among all the other perspectives that I always try to bring on here. I just thought, I was like, she's perfect for coming on here and just getting into that secret sauce of how you developed the bold kind of approach that you do. And I appreciate you. I think you're valuable to the whole conversation that we're having in this country. Even if people strongly disagree with you, like you're like, yeah, not everyone's gonna agree with you. And that's great. And that's kind of part of what makes America awesome, is that diversity in the way that we think. So thank you so much for giving me your time, and I appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Will. God bless you, and have an incredible day. And week and month and year and eternity. And you know it.
I do. Same to you.